Okay, and we are live. Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Sivia from Music for Youth, and I'm with Love Ssega for the Future is Now Lunchtime interview. Now, Ssega, we're really pleased to be talking to you today in your role as an ambassador for Music for Youth, and of course, as a successful musician who has experience to share with young people who might want to take their music further or simply hear about your journey. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Cool. And so before we continue, so for anyone who is new to Music for Youth, we are a national youth organisation known best for putting on really large scale performance events and festivals for young people from all over the UK. And usually this time of year, we'd be presenting some amazing showcase concerts at the Royal Albert Hall, but obviously with COVID-19, we're doing things a little bit differently and incorporating some tech. And this interview is part of 2 days of live and online events under the name The Future Is Now. So before we continue, we'd love to hear from anyone who's watching who has questions today for Love Ssega. So pop them in the YouTube chat. I believe you have to be logged in to do that, and I'll keep an eye and you can ask some questions. So before we get into some questions, actually, Love Ssega, do you want to tell us, I know it's very difficult in a very short period, to give us an overview of who you are as an artist, for those who might have missed your home session or might not be familiar with your work.
Yeah, hi. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm Love Ssega. I'm an artist, a songwriter, and also produce as well, which we might get into in the Q&A. And I've had a career which has managed to take me as a solo artist to different parts of the world. But then I started off probably more widely known with my university school friends, a band called Clean Bandit. So yeah, and then wrote Mozart's House and Telephone Banking, and then that enabled me first off to get onto the radio, get onto TV, play some big festivals and stuff. So that was in the pop world, and then now I kind of do experimental stuff or alternative pop. It might even be some sort of like Chinese folk music. So yeah, so I've got a varied career. So yeah, so I'm expecting loads of different questions and hopefully I can answer them all.
Cool, nice. And, I guess we'll dive in with one that I had actually after watching your home session this morning, which was great. And it sort of gave like a nice overview of everything that you've experienced really in your journey so far. One thing that struck me that is quite important is that not everyone goes through this formal music education when becoming a musician or artist. And obviously this is very common, but for those young people who might not be going through that, that was quite interesting to me. And this has been your experience. So can you tell us a bit more about your musical journey and how it began and the things you did earlier on to hone your craft?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big thing. So you shouldn't feel, okay, because I haven't gone to music college or I've stopped music lessons at a certain point in time, that it's all over. Because I think what we mainly listen to now, like pop music or music on commercial music, if it's on the radio. So that could be J Hus and Stormzy, all of these different people and the different producers. It starts as a hobby, like as a passion. So I want to DJ, I want to listen to this thing, I want to sing to Ariana Grande or stuff like that. So for me, I didn't study music. I had music lessons when I was young. My parents were like, you have to learn music, keep you occupied. So I had a few lessons there, but I never studied music as a subject. And then even at university, I didn't study music there. But again, because everyone loves music and it's a pastime and we want to perform and, open mics and the like. So it was through doing that started to write songs, started to do things, and it's informally, and then it builds up.
Nice. And I guess that's the case for a lot of artists now as well. And it's good. And I guess it's going through all these different avenues as well. Like one thing leads on to the next, and this sort of builds your experience. And on that as well, and I guess the release of your first EP, Pray for Love, I remember you mentioned the importance of this being a moment when you developed your visual language for your music as well, which is obviously a really important part of being a musician or artist. It's the music, but also there's this visual element. And can you tell us more about that process and any advice for musicians who are thinking about building this around their music? And I guess particularly now where, with COVID, that some young people might not have the access to the resources that they would usually have. So if you could talk a bit about your experience and any advice you might have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So firstly, you've got to think, where do I want to exist? So, okay, we're all locked down now, but you've got to think, okay, is this music for the club? You know, is this for 100 people? Is there a DJ or and then an MC, or is there a vocalist or something? Or is this music for like a folk festival where you're going to be in summer, a big stage, and you're outside and you'll be playing around midday? Is it for like a jazz bar? So you've got to think sort of, why do I like music? What is where does it exist? And where do I want to place myself? So obviously, if it's a folk type of, obviously you want to break the mold and everything, but if it's a folk type of thing, then you've got to think, look, maybe I won't go in with dressed like a heavy rocker, you know? So because first off, you've got to kind of, yes, we do want originality, we do want to spruce it up and spice it up and everything else, but in a way you have to get in there first, because they might not let you in. So in that same way, you've got to look and say, look, who are my favorite artists and how do they kind of present themselves, and what's the sort of an entry point? Because again, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So just say, okay, look, this is my favorite folk artist. This is, you know, what they do. They've got this guitar, they've got this look. It seems quite simple. Yep, then you can do that. Or if it's like, okay, cool, this is with hip hop. I'm a big hip hop fan. 90s, all of that. You look at the clothes, even the 80s, Run DMC, My Adidas. It's the whole thing where you look at the street style and everything like that. So it's like, look, so when somebody who might not have heard the music, if they look at you, would they say, oh, okay, I think it might be over there, I'm going to give this a chance? So again, it's not about pandering to other people, but it's at least letting people in to say, look, okay, come in. This might be a bit familiar, but then with the from a visual, but then with the music, I'll bring you a twist, you know, so it's something new. But, you know, you want people to hear you. So you just got to do whatever trick you can. Good thing now, obviously, I'm not super old, so there was the internet when I was growing up. So, but the good thing, exactly. So now at least you can see. So you can see your favorite artists and use them as an example. So you can do your background research. So all of this different stuff you can kind of do from home. So yeah, we're locked down. We can't go to festivals. Maybe we can't go to clubs and this and that and the other, but you can use this time as kind of research and say, okay, well, if I want to launch as a pop artist, what type of pop artist? Do I want to be like Sam Smith, you know, where he's dancing and he's got his style and everything, or Ed Sheeran, you know, where he's like, well, his whole thing is there's no fashion. So in a way, it's like, this is me, it's the songs, and there's no band, there's nothing. So look, and then sort of, look at these examples and say, okay, cool, I can go this way, or I can kind of go this way.
And has there been anyone in particular, or any artists who have been particularly like inspirational for you in that regard as well? Like, are there people that you've looked to for this visual as well?
Yeah, so for me, I think the main thing there is try and always look backwards. Don't look at the people now. So if you say, okay, this person's making this sound now, the way the music industry works, you're going to be 6 months too late. You're going to be behind. Because if you're seeing it now, those people were making it in the studio 6 months ago, 18 months ago. So don't copy the trends. But then if you look sort of like 20 years ago, you might look at Michael Jackson, 20, 30 years ago. Or for me, the big inspiration is like James Brown, Funkadelic, all that type of thing. And then even closer, it was like Andre 3000 from Outkast and stuff. So those type of things. And when you look at all of those different people, or Goody Mob, so these are American artists, so sorry if people aren't getting these references. But then when you I was having a clinic earlier today, and then someone mentioned Youngblood, and you look at Youngblood and you look at Young Thug, so all these young people. So you look in the same way, they're kind of exuberant and outlandish, whether it's the clothes or the music and stuff. And you can kind of go back and say, okay, 20 years ago, there was this band, or 40 years ago, there was kind of like this band. And then you can look at those type of people rather than saying, okay, I'm going to copy this person who's here right now, you know? So everyone's inspired, you know, everyone's inspired by different people. So you can go back again with the internet, you can go back in history and see, okay, look, how was that done?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And to, I guess, to divert round into your development, like you mentioned Clean Bandit earlier, a group that you were part of some years ago. And I know that with the group you performed with the BBC Concert Orchestra. And one thing that sort of came up for us was this idea of this collaboration between sort of smaller bands or individuals with like large ensembles. And I can imagine that was quite a great experience for you. But I was just interested to know what that experience was like, sort of working with a smaller band, you guys starting out, then, you know, working with like a sort of classical contemporary orchestra like the BBC Concert Orchestra. Can you tell us a bit about that experience and what you learned? And also what you think they learned from you as well? That's also something we were interested in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fantastic because then again, just got to impress. Like, so Mozart's house, that particular song, we're actually meant to perform it with another BBC orchestra, BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, but the band actually chose to do another song that I'd written with that orchestra. So again, but these are songs, you know, written in a bedroom, you know. So again, so everyone who's listening now, don't think the only way you can work with these big, massive national institutions is by getting a really expensive producer and doing all of this. No, Telephone Bank in Mozart's house, these were done in like student bedrooms.
Yeah.
So, you know, so, and that's the thing, you don't need a fancy computer, you know, you don't need all of this other stuff. I won't tell you what software was used. But somewhere, so Jack, obviously my friend in the band, the producer, you know, he was doing that, and then I was doing the vocal and the lyrics and the structuring and stuff. Those things, you can do them in your bedroom. Things that people are doing right now, they will be at a level that someone who's spent their whole life, 40 years or whatever, if they find something musical, it will be musical. So it was a big pat on the back, to be honest. And then it's the show, and then to see the power of music, to see, okay, we've only got these little electronic instruments and sounds, and then they're doing it to 70-piece orchestra, where there was one guy on the egg shaker, like a professional egg shaker guy. And I was just like, wow, you know, it's bizarre to think something we're just messing around with, and then they're taking it seriously, having it arranged and working with an arranger, this guy, Joe Dardell. Again, it just goes to show that if you make something which is pure and good, and even if it's just for fun, there were no aspirations at that time thinking this is going to go anywhere other than really. But then it can be taken serious by other people and they can add to it. So the good thing, hopefully when everyone from Music for Youth side of things, and what's really exciting for me is I loved, so last year was the first year I actually went to the proms, the Music for Youth proms. And then when you see the opportunity for young musicians, younger than I was when I was doing this BBC stuff, going on a big stage, Royal Albert Hall, or some of the other things in the Barbican, and performing with musicians that you wouldn't have access to normally. And essentially the way to look at it is you can be scared, but then you can say, "Lo, these people, they want to work with you and they want to share and have that side of music where it's collaboration, you know, and it's the respect where it's like, we're going to take our time to perform your music and add to it and have a different spin to it." So that's the exciting part of it. And that's where Music for Youth is really special. So yeah, it might be difficult to say, okay, everyone's going to have something with BBC Concert Orchestra or something like that. That might be difficult, but through Music for Youth, every year, you know, putting together different musicians and stuff like that. And yeah, so we now have to figure out a way to do it digitally well. And then when it comes back to performing live, to make sure these opportunities are there. And then that's why I'm just saying to people now, okay, it's sad that we're locked down. Yes, it is. Just to protect people, you know, I'm worried. I'm not running around. You know, I was meant to go to Colombia and some other different places, but I'm not running around because it's serious. We need to protect each other. But then on the flip side, it's time, if you can, to create the stuff. So when the live comes back, you're ready. You got your visuals we were talking about. You've got your stylings sorted out. You've got your songs, so that you can then slot in and say, come on, people, let's now celebrate.
Yeah, that's really, they're really important points, particularly in this moment now where people might feel, you know, we're all isolated in different ways, but things like this event, I know you've had like your mentor sessions earlier. There are a lot of things happening online to kind of allow that connection to happen in the meantime. So you know, so we can do these, you know, because I've been to some of these like events at the Royal Albert Hall with Music for Youth, and it's an amazing opportunity to be in and see young people's faces light up when they're in that space. It's an amazing moment to be part of, actually, and hopefully we can get back to that really soon. And just in terms of this idea of collaboration as well that you've mentioned, now you obviously have this collaboration with the band, and I'm just interested to know like how this informed your development as a solo artist and like where you are now and what you want to say. of course, collaboration is such an important part of being a musician. But how has that informed the solo work that you're doing?
Yeah, so collaboration is it's important because when you start off, and for people who didn't hear before, normally, you know, you find I don't really play instruments live when I'm singing because I just like to sing. So I have a friend who'd play guitar, but for some people who can play guitar and sing at the same time, or play piano and sing at the same time, it's easier, so it's even better. So, you know, you start by doing covers of songs that you like and things like that. So as you start to write your own songs, because it's like, okay, I'll do a cover and then let me just throw in one of my own songs, and you start to learn how to songwrite and become a songwriter and perform in that way, you will go back to the same chords. Like, it's the same songs I've heard. I'm inspired by these type of songs and these type of rhythms and these type of melodies. As soon as you collaborate with somebody else, they've heard different type of songs, different type of melodies, different type of things. So then it takes you out of your comfort zone and you create something which is a new sound. Because if an artist just works by themselves all the time, it will sound the same. Like, let's take Michael Jackson, for instance, massively successful in Motown and the Jackson 5, Berry Gordy and that. But then if he stayed to try and be, instead of Michael Jackson, Little Michael in Jackson 5, he wouldn't have met Quincy Jones and then done Thriller. So you need these different people in your lives. And sometimes it's different instrumentalists. Sometimes it's different beat makers. Sometimes it might be a different stylist to come up with the thing. Otherwise, you will stay sounding the same, looking the same, being the same. It might be good for a short period of time. It won't be good like all the time, you know? So the collaboration, it gives you more tools. And when you get to a stage where even now, let's be honest, in the real music industry, it sounds glamorous, but sometimes now with the internet, people are just sending you MP3s or WAVs and stuff, and you just write to it. So even before, you were kind of in a lockdown type of thing. So that's the collaboration. It's all digital, but it's great when you can get into a space. But realistically, in the music business, for people it is kind of digital. So just because we can't always travel to different places, but then again, it's much easier for me to get sent some music by somebody and then write the vocal bit on top and the words and the lyrics, rather than me to have to cook it up and make everything myself and then get to that. So again, that's just a small thing where collaboration is just, it's powerful. You can still do it, and there are different ways. So it can be live, it can be digital, but then it's about expanding yourself, challenging yourself, you know? So I'm a big rap fan. So rappers is sort of, there's a thing called 5 Fingers of Death, where it's like, as a rapper, can you rap over these different beats, a fast one, a slow one, a this and that? It's the same for a musician, you know? Can you, if you're like a flute player, can you just play in the orchestras, or could you play live with, you know, some different type of singers and a different type of music? Could you put rock music with flute? It's to collaborate and say, this is something interesting. So it's powerful and it should be exciting.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what I'll do now is I'm just going to see, we have a question come through actually, just about a previous question, which is quite interesting. So what's the difference between being inspired by someone and copying them? And I guess there's this, I guess in regards to this idea of visual language, like it's a good question. Like, what is the difference between sort of this inspiration or then copying? Like, what's your view on that?
Well, that's an interesting thing. And I think it's interesting now where you've got to think of yourself as an artist. So let me take you sort of back in the day. So Destiny's Child, so Beyonce, she was in Destiny's Child, American band. Before, it would take a while before you could tour and come from America and then come to the UK to perform your music. Therefore, if you're a UK music label, you could make a fake Destiny's Child and then copy them, because you know they won't, is 6 months before they come over to try and perform. So you could actually have like a copycat band and say, look, this is what we're going to do. Now with streaming, Beyonce releases her music at the exact same time, whether it's in London, whether it's in Tokyo, or whether it's in America, it's the same time. So you can't really copy. There's no time for that. And then also, if you're saying, oh, I'm going to copy the Beatles, people now with streaming, they can get the real Beatles. so why listen to the fake Beatles? It's the same number of clicks for the real Beatles to the fake Beatles. So what I would say is, as an artist, you want to stand out, and especially with all of this streaming, it's great because your music can go everywhere, but then it also means everything is everywhere. There was a big thing, even when I was starting off in, not that long ago, your voice has to be unique. So the point is, if someone is listening to streaming or the radio, do they know that it's you? Can they hear you, and do they know that it's you? So again, and it was a big thing before in rap and hip hop where you can't sound the same. Snoop Dogg sounds different from Eminem, who sounds different from Busta Rhymes, who sounds different, all these different people, even the MCs. If you listen to grime, Dizzy Rascal doesn't sound the same as Wiley, and doesn't sound the same as Skepta, and doesn't sound the same as J Hus. Now, there are some type of music, like now there's some artists, now drill is really popular. Some of the drill artists sound kind of similar, but then they're not the ones who are going to punch through and then be remembered. So you've got to think, if you just want to make a quick song and it's easiest by just copying, then fine, do that. But I'm not sure whether people will remember you, if you just blend into the crowd. So you've got to think, what are you doing it for? You need something where it's either your voice or the words you're saying, or your lyrics, or the message. Otherwise, it's just a sing-along where no one's going to remember. They'll remember the song, but they won't remember the name. And I'm guessing the questioner wants to be an artist. So make yourself stand out. So if someone's like blindfolded, or your grandma is just listening or whatever, and they don't read the press release, they can't see anything, they can hear it's you. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and that's quite important, because I guess at any point someone can access your music in different ways. You might not necessarily see a video the first time you hear music. Sometimes you don't, you might not hear it on the radio. So just the idea of having your own identity, no matter what the medium you're listening to it on, is like
exactly. And I mean, just to follow on that as well. So because I did say to be inspired by, then the difference is, though, because it's when you're doing something and you pay homage. So a good example is Cardi B. She's not the first female rapper, and in America, the female rappers have issues because they say, "Oh, you're copying." So Nicki Minaj was copying Lil Kim, and then is Cardi B copying Nicki Minaj? The thing is, if she comes out, and now she does, and says, "Look, I'm here. I'm paying homage to these people who paved the way for me. I'm paying homage to these people because clearly they did this and this. Now I'm adding my spin to it." That's the thing. So you pay homage, and then it's clear I've been inspired by these people, but then you still have your spin, which is different because you're growing up in a different time. There are different things going on. So you are going to be different,
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a really good point about, just that idea of taking the inspiration and letting it inform what you're doing, and that paying homage, because we see it throughout history with loads of different musicians, and that kind of Andre 3000 being another one. I'm sure you can see the James Brown influence, but he's Andre 3000. He's very individual. No, great, thank you. So next question for you. So I know this year you released the EP Celebration, which was released just before the start of lockdown. And your track Find a Way, which is great, speaks obviously to the current climate we're in, specifically around the Black Lives Matter movement and how that's been developing this year. And I guess, how important do you think it is for young people to write about these political moments and things that are important to them? Because some people might shy away from doing that, but why? Because you've done it and you did it beautifully. And why do you feel like it's important? And how would you encourage young people to write about the things that they care about?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what's interesting is, firstly, I'll bring in the music for youth angle is, so Judith, the CEO, was like in when they asked her, would you like to do this? And then I was like, yeah, of course, of course I'd like to. And then she said specifically, say to the young people that they should feel they should use their voices for good. Whether you call that political or whatever, they should use their voices and be free to, because that's part of expression. And when people say political, it's political when you buy something because you have to pay tax. Everybody pays tax, it's VAT and stuff. And I think it's important to be an active member of society. I personally believe we should contribute to help others less well off. And whether it's through, and you look at the NHS and everyone was clapping, but I'm like, look, NHS people need to be paid more, not just clapping. So it's the same thing where if you're an artist, think about it. Everyone here, you're an artist either because you have a passion for music or you have something to say and you're reflecting something where the songs being released aren't doing the job. Otherwise, quite frankly, I just sit back and listen to the other songs. My life would be easier. So if you've got a viewpoint where it's your group of friends, you might be in Wales, like, you know, a former mining town or whatever, but we're not hearing artists, we're not seeing what's happening in the news in Wales, from London. So it's down to the artist to say, do you know what? I'm going to be the voice to reflect what's going on in my community. You know, not saying you've got all the answers, but sometimes it's easiest to hear from an artist, this is what's going on, and to do it in a way, through music and to have a message. So coming back to Find Another Way, that song, what's interesting is the EP came out in, it came out in June, I believe, but I'd written that song about 8 months ago, because like I was saying before, like you write all of the music in advance. So I'd written the EP and done it 4 to 8 months before it came out. And the thing is, I thought to myself as well, you know, as a Black man, I thought to myself, am I taking advantage of this situation? Like, am I just doing this to be trendy? I had to think about this. And I thought, wait, hold on a minute. But this is a song which I actually wrote 8 months ago, before the murder of George Floyd, and then the Sandra Bland, a young Black lady, and Breonna Taylor, and all of these other things. So I'd been talking about these things, and then I looked back and I checked my lyrics, and I've been mentioning it every year in different songs, whether it's Out Here Looking and stuff. And you go back to the back catalog, and I said, you know what? Actually, I have been talking about this stuff in the music, so it's not a new phenomenon. What's changed is people are listening to it in a different way. Yeah. So that's the thing. So again, even for yourself, don't feel bad where it's like, oh, I never talked about the environmental crisis, because I've got a commission which is going to talk about environmental issues and specifically the Black community as well. Again, just trying to promote voices from the Black community in terms of environmental thing through music as well, in a musical way. Let's see whether I'm successful on that. But it's the sort of thing, like, don't feel scared saying, oh, I've never talked about the environment before. It doesn't matter, because it might affect you now. Like, people had never talked about COVID before now. They hadn't talked about respiratory diseases, but it's here, so we might as well talk about it, you know? So, and if your music can reach other different people and affect, that's what we need. I'm sitting here, I make music, that's nice. I listen to music, that's even better. So if there are other people out there and there are other issues I'm not aware of, like, we need more women in producing roles. We need more women in the boardroom roles, and we need more women. We need more women as singers and songwriters, not just in front, but crusty old men or other men like me. I'm a songwriter. We shouldn't be writing. How is it our place to be writing the songs for women when, as if they don't have their own agency and their own artistic thing? So we need everybody to be talking about whatever issue affects them. Then we can kind of see, because that's the important thing. Then we can see, oh, do you know what? I love that song, love the artist, love the message, but actually I need to improve. And we need to hear it direct from the people. And that's what music can do, in a beautiful way, in a beautiful, positive way, and in a collaborative way as well. Then that's a nice way where we can kind of do something, you know? Yeah.
And it's not, and I think, like you said as well, it's you with the song Find a Way, you had written it before, and it speaks to the idea that these issues or these lyrics are important and they're timeless. Exactly. So they would, you know, perhaps, and you know, you would hope things will change.
Yeah.
But they're timeless and they're relevant in different points in history and different places. I mean, now they're relevant in a global sense. Yeah. So I'm sure in 5 years, perhaps the music might mean something else. But you know, then that's the beauty of the music itself. And
I mean, think to your favorite songwriters like Marvin Gaye. His biggest album was What's Going On. It was a jazz fusion psychedelic thing, but it was talking about environmental things. It's like, what's going on? And that was he was a big Motown star, a big soul and R&B, but that's the one that really resonated. And I mean, last comment on this really is, I had a song, Stop Making Sense. And that was inspired by the young people probably on this, who are probably watching now. I was inspired by the school strikes for the climate and Greta Thunberg and everything. So I saw that And not everybody can be a musician or wants to be a musician, but then they use their sort of activism to say, look, as young people, we don't want this pollution. Whether you old people wanted the pollution, that's your business. But it's like, look, let's go on a peaceful march and let's take people with us. And then I know it's an issue because I've seen it. So then now, as for a musician, I can then use that energy as well to then put it into my music and then say, okay, cool, this is going to influence my music. Then it passes on the message. And then if somebody else sees I've done it, and then they can do it and then put an even better spin on things, then it shows, you know, we're all in this together and we're alert to it.
Yeah. And I guess on that, I wanted to ask you a question that was sent in by, from Olivia from Croydon.
Hi, Olivia.
And she wanted to know, what advice would you give to those who might be struggling to make music right now? And she said, I used to play a lot at school, but because of COVID, a lot of musical activities have stopped. So I guess what she's asking is, like, she was used to making music in a particular way. And, you know, this is an issue now, like a lot of, you know, after school clubs and things have stopped. Yeah. So the way young people are accessing music is a bit different. So what advice would you give to young people like Olivia who are sort of feel like their hands are tied slightly and might not know that there are other ways to create?
Yeah. I mean, firstly, Olivia, I feel very sorry for you guys, especially now, because with after school clubs and orchestras and all of these things being, you're facing the brunt of all of this. And that's why for me, myself, it's like, look, this is my first YouTube live. So again, it's like, I feel, so it's like, look, what can I do? So it's like, look, I'm going to jump on here and then try and provide some information and some encouragement and stuff, just to say, look, we feel you. I see the problem, that there's an issue. So it's like, quick, let me try and give out as much information as I can possibly, just to help. It is difficult, firstly, from a creative point of view, and I'm not sure whether you're asking this, don't feel pressurized, because some people said, well, now you're at home, you've got all the time in the world to make music. Why aren't you making music? Some of my friends who had the office jobs and whatever, they were like, well, this should be fantastic. You can just be making music. And it's like, well, to be creative, you do need to be like, your mental well-being has to be there. You need to be in a space where you feel comfortable and creative. And sometimes that's difficult. So firstly, don't beat yourself up if the music isn't coming or you don't feel like practicing today. You know, I think one thing that COVID has kind of shown us is, like, things are fragile. And I know we're all chasing to do well in school, to do well in our jobs and this and that and the other, but we do need time to look after our health and our mental health and everything like that. So don't beat yourself up because it's difficult, because even if things are great, you might find now 24/7 you're in the house with your parents, whereas before you're escaping, and then it's just, you know, and they're probably thinking the same. 24/7 I'm in the house with my kids. So it might not be the right environment for you to be creative. So do what you can and just accept and say, look, before I was practicing 1 hour a day, now maybe it might be 1 hour a week, but as long as I just pick it up, the instrument, or I just do whatever, that's fine. That's the biggest thing, just because when things improve, we need you not to lose the love of music before then. Then in terms of what sort of things you can kind of do, it is difficult trying to do an online, and not everybody has the internet and access to the internet so regularly. So, and that's another problem we need to think about on a bigger level. So it might be difficult to do an online rehearsal with your bandmates and this and that, and everyone's timing to match up. But what you can do is then just try and have a musical conversation with somebody. So it might be someone you played with, and then just ask them and say, okay, we can't play together, but like, what new music are you listening to? Or what are you inspired? Things which you wouldn't have done before, which are around music, but might not necessarily be practicing. So it's like, okay, we like this piece. Are there new, because before you would just turned up to orchestra and played, you know, and then that's it. You know, you just, because we were just turning up. It's like football practice. You turn up and then kick the ball. Whereas now you can say, okay, who are like the footballers you like, or who are the musicians you like? What are the songs you like? So maybe you can, if you're not playing, you can do some background reading. And then if it's something where you played in an orchestra, a group or whatever, then you might find, do you know what? I want to be a solo star. I play the saxophone. And then ask yourself, who's out here playing the saxophone you know, as themselves and having a band. And then there's a young lady called Nubia Garcia. So she's out there and she's just released an album. And then there's a London jazz scene, you know, it's around Deptford and Dalston. And then you might say, oh, hold on a minute, I can do some stuff outside of my formal thing. Whereas I thought open mics were just for like guitar bands and whatever it is. So maybe you can start to say, oh, hold on a minute, there's something different. Or you might say, do you know what? Let me just use my Instagram to record like 20 seconds every other day of me playing the scale or me doing a cover of Taylor Swift or whoever it is and doing my own spin on things. So maybe you can use this time to kind of be creative. Secondly, the other thing is maybe it's like, okay, how can I learn how to record myself? Because before my talent was turning up to rehearsal and playing. Okay, I can't turn up to rehearsal now, but how do I show the world that I have the talent? So it might be, okay, let me learn how to record. It might be through your phone, you know? So, and then it might be, okay, are there apps which can improve the thing? So, and then you just learn bit by bit and say, oh, actually, I want to get a microphone. Okay, can I start with a basic thing? So firstly, don't spend loads of money. Don't. Technology is so good now. Don't go out and say that's going to change your music. But you might say, okay, well, let me save up now because I'm not going out. I'm not buying the sweets in the corner shop because it's closed. And then just build up and say, okay, well, if I save my money, let me ask for a £10 microphone. And then I'll learn how to record with the microphone. Or there's free software if you're a student, like Reaper to do, or GarageBand if you have Apple computer, or for Windows, there's free software out there and other little stuff. So then other little things. So then maybe learn then how to record yourself. And then you may find you're moving from a player to like a performer who can record stuff. And then you can build up to recording your own stuff or recording your own friends. And then when everything comes out live, you're like, okay, we've got rehearsals, last 10 minutes. Can we just record this? And then we can then put it out on Spotify. And then you start. So then it's just look at different things you can do, but don't feel pressurized in saying, I don't feel creative. That's understandable. That's understandable now. It's a tough time. People can't see their grandparents. People can't do the things. We're protecting each other. So don't feel bad about that. And we just got to be patient and just say, what are these other things I can look into where I didn't have the time before?
Yeah, thank you. That's something really amazing answer. because I think it's a very important thing to talk about, particularly now where, you know, like you said, everyone's been making music in a particular way for a long time, particularly for young people who are just developing their music skills and being, you know, with others, either whether it's in an ensemble or with their friend or at home. You know, many young people are already making music at home, you know, with GarageBand and so on. But for a lot, I think this is a very challenging moment. So it's nice to hear, and I hope that's helpful for Olivia, if she's watching now, because she sent that question in, just to kind of, think about all the different ways that you can create and also how it can inform what happens next. Because there is a next phase of this. And it's important for us to sort of, I don't know, keep that hope alive for the future, really.
Also, so one more point, because I've just realized. So, Olivia, I went to school in Croydon, so I sort of know the area.
I'm from Croydon.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you're like what I said next. So for everybody, even if you're not in like near London or you're far away, EDM, electronic dance music, probably one of the biggest things other than hip hop. That started in Croydon, Scream and Benga, Big Apple Records, and a little music store in Croydon. So that's where Artwork, Benga, Scream, that whole scene started in Croydon. So, and then it spread then in Glasgow as well. So wherever, for people who are all across the country, don't think that you need to move to a big city, Birmingham, Manchester, or wherever to make your the best stuff might be happening on your doorstep, you know? So look into it and see where different type of music came from and how it kind of started. And you'll find that these people, they didn't have big funds either, you know? So,
Oh, that's great. And just because we've got a few more minutes left, what we wanted to ask you about is your role as an ambassador for Music for Youth, which is super exciting. And I know the Music for Youth team are really happy to have you involved, and I'm sure you are as well. And I understand that from this conversation as well. And just wanted to know what you hope to do with your role and how you hope to contribute your own experience to young people who are at the beginning of their musical journey. And, you know, what would you hope to do with this role as an ambassador?
Well, firstly, I just couldn't believe that I was asked. It was just so nice for Music for Youth in terms of work that they're doing across the country. That's the thing. Not many things, a lot of things are regional, but across the country where, drawing people from the southwest to, up in the north and the east, everywhere, and even taking events across the country as well beforehand. So it was fantastic. And just for myself, because I didn't know about, I'm a big music fan, as you can probably tell. I didn't know about the music industry. So having seen the music industry and seeing how that kind of operates, and then realizing that I've got a love for music as well. And it's not, you don't just have to be in the music. There are so many different avenues that you can kind of do. And the biggest problem for everybody everywhere is just information, where it's like, there's a lot of things where I've just sort of gone a very strange musical career. It's very winding and whatever, just because I kind of do what I want to do. Yeah, in a very funny way. But again, there's no textbook or anything like that, but I do feel that there is some information you can give to other people just to encourage them. And that's the main thing. We need to encourage people. And I mean, I was fortunate because school I found fine, and academically, you could say I did well kind of academically, but I know music for a lot of people, like sports or drama, is a way out, So it's a way where it's like, look, this is my solace where things aren't going right. I don't like maths. I don't get on with that. I don't like languages or whatever it is, but music is kind of like my way to find myself or to find friends, even if you're not doing it professionally. So, and given the state that we're in, and it's that a lot of things are getting kind of closed down and chances are being restricted, it's the biggest thing. If I had a way to encourage other people to like keep going, keep doing it, and then just to make people feel better, where it's not like, oh, if I don't do X, then I would have failed, and just to pass on that music, the knowledge of what I've kind of seen, and that kind of passion. Because again, I'm a fan of music. I'm very lucky to be a musician, to be in this position. So if I've had good luck, then you've got to share the wealth. You've got to spread that round. And as a person, I want to be hearing more music from people in Newcastle. I want to hear more from people in Lake District. I want to hear different stories. I want to hear different sounds. I want to hear all of from wherever. But we need to encourage those people at the beginning to keep going, do what they're doing, and just enjoy it for themselves and the enjoyment they can give to others.
Great, thank you. No, I think I'm sad. 45 minutes has just flown by.
I know.
No, thank you so much, Love Ssega. I think you've provided some really amazing, some advice, and just, of course, drawing from your own experience. But I think it speaks to the moment, and also I think it's important for young people to hear this, and even people who work with young people to kind of understand, some of the challenges, but things that they might be able to do to support any young musicians who are wanting to, become musicians, or using it because it's good for therapy, or, just for well-being, because there is that side as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just really look forward to seeing what you do with Music for Youth as an ambassador, and what you continue to do as an artist as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much to the Music for Youth team for hosting the event today. Future is Now. And you can actually head over onto the website where we have a host of videos and content that have been submitted by young people. So you can see that. And for anyone who is taking part in activities today, I hope you enjoy. And yeah, a big thank you again to Love Ssega for joining us for this interview session.
Thanks to the whole Music for Youth team. Thank you to the whole team for putting this on for the young people and continuing to give hope and everything else. So it's exciting, and it's a great place, and I'm looking forward to the other stuff coming up with them.
Cool, thank you. And if you missed Love Ssega's home session this morning, you can watch it back on YouTube after this if you become intrigued. Okay, that's all, but thank you. Bye.